Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another painting video here on New Memphis Minis. My name is Richard, the channel is called New Memphis, and I am so glad that you could be here today. I bet you thought I was done making these. Well, joke's on you. Welcome to another painting project, and thank you so much to my buddy William, who was so kind as to loan me his miniatures from the Trial by Trolley Kickstarter that he spent way too much money on. Been there, man. Been there. And here's your first trolley conundrum. Would you rather subscribe to this channel or be automatically subscribed to 5 channels that you hate? Probably something to do with Taylor Swift and sexy babies. God, that's an old reference now. Oh man, why did I even... That is... Wow, that's old now. That's years old. So do the things with the buttons and such down below, and I'm ready to just go ahead and get started with this project, honestly. I am very, very excited to be back, honestly. It has been far too long. And of course, because we're not doing Warhammer this week, I'm going over to doing trains, or trolleys, close enough. I, of course, had to put on the most dad shirt that I could possibly find, complete with short sleeves instead of rolled up sleeves. If I weren't on a set where, oh God, ow. First time back. What a way to kick things off. If I weren't on a set where you guys could actually like see my legs, I would honestly wear like the full cargo shorts, like the big white Nikes with the the socks rolled up all the way up to the shins, the ankle socks all the way up to the shins. But after that embarrassing debacle, I think we should just get on to the painting, because that's the one thing I'm actually good at, apparently. Let's get started. Like I said, these models are currently on loan from a friend of mine. They may not have the detail of a Space Marine, but I think it's good to break out of your comfort zone once in a while, Break out of the Games Workshop bubble and paint something that's a little bit different and something that definitely doesn't take washes as well as a Games Workshop model does. But it's good to be doing something different. Good to have a reminder that you can't always just put on a wash and expect things to work out in your favor. I'll admit I didn't break that far from Games Workshop though, because these are primed in Gray Seer. And for that we're going to move on straight to Dark Vermilion. Once I'm done clearing out the nozzle on my paint models. Like I said, it's been a while. I am glad to be back though. Now my idea for the trolley was to go for that iconic San Francisco red and yellow. The box art technically has a green trolley on it, but that's no fun. And I'm always a sucker for classical Americana. Plus, red and yellow is just a great color combination, and I think that this red... I don't normally get excited this early. Who am I kidding? Of course I do. But I was very excited when I saw this red on the trolley. I think that it was a great start. And speaking of classical Americana, we of course have to give our train engineers blue jeans. I think that is also iconic because of California industry, so congrats to California for showing up twice in this video. And then we'll use black-red on the inside and the underside of the trolley so that it will start out a bit darker. We're still going to wash it after this, so it's going to get quite a bit darker from here, but to help the inside start out darker, you get what I'm saying. And while I already had the black-red out, I also decided to use it on one of the conductor's shirts. I knew that eventually we were going to be painting that big lever that he's like leaning on in some kind of yellow or maybe like a bronze, so I thought the black-red would be a color that would pair with that well. Now I ended up choosing deep yellow, which is an extremely bright paint. But we're also using a lot of red and a lot of browns, general earth tones, so hopefully overall that should help kind of smooth things out so the yellow will pop but not be overbearing. Plus for the mechanical details like the lever that he's leaning on, some of the details on the trolley, as well as all the buttons and clasps on their shirts and suspenders, we're going to be going over those in bronze or maybe brass later on, so this is just a base coat. Next, of course, is the skin, and I had to break out what is still, to this day, the absolute best skin tone that I've ever used, Vallejo Cork Brown. It never fails. It's I hate that it just never fails, but it doesn't, so we're still going with it. And I think at this point you could really start to see where I was headed with this project. The sort of Monopoly Man vibe, which I guess is kind of indicative of a lot of the Cyanide and Happiness character designs. Strong and effective colors, like I said, to reflect the fact that these are not super complicated models, but with very strong, large proportions. I struggle to put these in words sometimes, but I hope that makes sense. Cartoonish, maybe, would be a good word for it. But now we can go ahead and continue with some of the secondary details, like the hats, which are one of my favorite details. The box art does show at least one of the conductors wearing black and white stripes, so I'm definitely doing that on one of them. But for the other, I wanted to see what white and red stripes would look like, because if we have two models, there's no point in painting both of them the same way. Although while I had the blackout, I did take the time to paint their eyes. Now those details ended up needing a lot of time to dry, so I put those aside and switched back over to the trolley. We're going to use London Gray and once again deep yellow for a lot of the details. Once again, old school San Francisco trolley vibes. I'm going to aim to use the gray more on details that I don't really want to stand out, and the yellow on details that I do want to stand out. As well as, trying to follow logically what would make sense. We're not going to paint the wheels in bright yellow. At least not on this project. Maybe the next one, I'll keep you posted. And with the base coats completed, now is time for the most exciting part in every single scheme, which is the wash. I'm gonna go ahead and mix on the fly some water, matte medium, an oxide brown, acrylic ink, and a touch. And I do mean a touch of black. Black is a color that when mixed with anything else will go a long way. A long way. So I only used a dab to darken this brown from rusty to muddy, if that makes sense. And here they are after drying, but to get a better sense of how they look, let's finish up the skin first with another layer of cork brown, being sure to leave those recesses alone. God, they look fantastic. Funny enough, I would describe them as looking beer battered. Okay, let's grab some white now, and we're going to use that for the stripes on the hat as well as one of the shirts on the conductors. Also their beards, and on these especially we want to make sure we leave those recesses alone, or else there was no point in ever doing the wash. And then break out the black for doing the stripes and both their sets of eyes. As well as the eyes and other details on the little guy who's driving the trolley, who was a bit of a pain to get painted, but as long as it took to get this right, I think that getting the detail on there was worth it in the end. Next, we will once again need black red. Now, this color is pretty similar to the brown that we just washed them with, so I actually consider just not even bothering to do a highlight with it. But when in doubt, I always find that doing the highlight is almost always the best option. And in the end, I was very glad that I went ahead and did it. It was, once again, certainly worth the extra time and patience. And while this color is out and I had a little bit of extra, I thought it would also be fun to use on the suspenders of the guy with the white shirt. Then, of course, we're going to need the dark vermilion once again to do the stripes on the other hat, as well as, of course, on our trolley. We're going to mainly focus on the big flat areas and just the raised bits on the trolley. Again, leave the recesses alone. We're just doing the highlights right now. And with that in mind, we are going to be very, very careful with our red. Well, As careful as I ever am. After that, we're going to swap back to deep yellow again to do exactly the same thing, to just touch up the areas that need to be highlighted. Interestingly, not the headlights though. We ended up doing those in white. Normally, I try not to introduce new colors this late into the game, but I'm actually about to introduce two. The first is going to be azure, which we're going to dry brush onto the cobblestone beneath the trolley. I'm hoping that even though it's not really going to show up a lot, it'll help the base to feel cool. When you're looking at it, you'll pick it up. Then we'll put old gold over the base coats of deep yellow on the suspenders and buttons, as well as the big lever that one of them is standing on, which took quite a while to paint, but fortunately metallic paints are pretty forgiving. So we left the recesses alone, and I think it turned out really, really well. Man, we're getting pretty close to the end here. I went ahead and painted the trolley tracks in black, and then dry brushed the entire base with London gray. But at this point, I had already tried a couple of different things for the bases that the engineers are standing on, and none of it ever really came together. So eventually I just decided to wipe the slate clean and just paint them in gray, then come back and do a dry brush of white to create a kind of faux concrete stone, and do the same on the actual cobblestone itself, which is a pretty easy way to do faux stone in general. So it worked out pretty well. And now, there is one detail that still needs some extra work. If you're not a regular of this channel, you might be guessing what color I'm going to introduce now, but I think that my regular viewers are going to know exactly what color is missing from this paint job. Say it with me, the one and only Vallejo Clear Orange. We're first going to paint the eyes in white, and once that's dry, put in a layer of Vallejo Clear Orange to get those eyes nice and bright. The one and only time we'll use it on this paint job, but you know what? I think it was worth it. Once again, I know it's been a while since I've done a painting video, although in fairness, the most viewed video on my channel now is a video game review, so who even knows what this channel is at this point. But thank you guys so much for sticking with me through all this time. Remember to like, comment, there's probably a third one, and let's honestly just get on to the good part. Choo choo. Wait, do trolleys do that? God, it feels good to be back. Feels good to be painting again. I know I have a couple of extra projects now. The story times are going to be continuing as well as I also go back to painting. Hopefully, these just go hand in hand and I can start actually using my painted miniatures in those as well. That's the idea anyway. But no matter what happens, I hope you guys will stick around with the channel. I have some really, really big plans. I'm hoping things work out here. But thank you so much for supporting me all this time. You guys have been amazing. I have been Richard, and I will see you guys in the next one.